Back at it again, ladies and gentlemen. It is Julian Marquez and Kendra Lust with the Beauty and the Beast podcast. Coming with you, a very exciting episode. One thing we all love to talk about and all need a little bit more education on, nutrition. And we have one of the best, one of the top of the game, one of the most exciting, entertaining, and interesting nutritionists out there. We have Tyler Minton on a guest today. He's in the back lobby. Kendra, how pumped are you that we're going to be talking about the thing we need the most, nutrition?
You know, honestly, I'm excited, and it could not come at a better time because I'm here, and I won't go on too much, but I'm in Colombia with BioAccelerator, and essentially they're telling me everything that I've been eating and I think is, pretty good is shit. So I am so happy to learn. I just ordered a couple books, but they're still, they're in my – I ordered them through Amazon, but I can send them back because they haven't been shipped. So if he has any recommendations, I'm definitely open to it. I'm ready. It's perfect timing for me, but it's not about me. It's about our fans and what we can help them with. So, hey, let's bring them on. I'm ready.
What do you got going on? What's that hat say up there?
What does it say?
Forward. It's from a company called Forward Observation Group. It's a bunch of it's hard to explain. It's a bunch of contractors and guys overseas. They have a company called Forward Observation Group. They put a lot of cool stuff on Instagram, a lot of things you can follow. They're kind of the world's most dangerous photographers. They go overseas, post a lot of really cool photos of behind enemy lines and things. And they made these hats and got them all shipped out, and everything goes to veteran organizations. All the money that they raise and everything does, but the Patagonia actually gave them a cease and desist because of these hats.
Oh, wow.
So they're no longer allowed to sell them. So I have to wear as much as possible because I think it looks awesome. So
that is awesome. Now that I see it, it does look like the Patagonia logo and set up.
Yeah. Little helicopter and a little bit more Middle Eastern mountains. But
well, we think it looks good. Hey, right? I like it. That looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, anytime you can make a big business angry, it's always a cool thing. So,
right. Well, I don't feel like it's too hard to piss anybody off these days. Everybody's offended about something. Nobody can take a joke anymore. It's like I'm over it. Have a sense of humor.
Tyler.
Yeah, and especially with people like me, I'm very centrist. As Julian would tell you, I'm kind of middle of the road on everything, and I live in a very extreme part of the country, so it's I'm constantly making people mad.
You're in Tennessee, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, I like Tennessee. That's
it's
is
beautiful.
really nice. My Professor X's family's from Cookeville and Sweetwater, and yeah.
Not too far.
I'm not far from Cookeville, only a couple hours.
Nice, awesome. So
in Tennessee, Bub, let's go into the background. You weren't born and raised in Tennessee, were you?
Yeah, I was born here.
Well, I think you were from Virginia. I don't know why I thought you were from Virginia.
And it's all kind of the same. Like all the Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia. Like where I live, I can get to Virginia in about 15 minutes. I can get to North Carolina about 20 minutes. I'm close to all of it.
Nice though. Close
to all of it. That works. I mean, you're like on a tri-state area, and you can literally go anywhere and claim any of the spots. I'm right here. I'd still represent you guys. Carry the flags.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't want to claim Virginia. I'll claim Tennessee if I have to pick between the two.
That's awesome. So I was reading a little bit about your story, and I'm not sure, Julian, if it seems like you know him a little bit more or better than I do. Talk to kind of about your journey through high school, and you started wrestling in high school. You were kind of a heavier kid, and you said I guess the center of a lot of jokes, which is probably not easy for you. Kids are cruel. I think they suck. A lot of them, but there are also some good ones. So anyway, but it sounds like you turned something negative into a positive. So you went through teasing and getting into wrestling, getting fit and healthy, a little hiccup with the bulimia, but then you rebounded back into something that you're really passionate about. So tell us about that a little bit, if you'd like.
Yeah, of course. And I'm open about all that because I think it's important. I think there's too many people in my position that just want to show you pictures of them in their best shape and make it seem like they've just always been this just amazing fitness guru. And that's just not me. And I don't ever want to portray that. So I was an overweight kid the vast majority of my life and absolutely sucked. I try to educate parents a lot and on how to keep their kids from being obese, just from the pure fact that as kids, you can't really help it. There's a lot of things going on and you don't have the control of any of it really. You don't do your grocery shopping. You didn't create your own genetics. You're just given the hand you're dealt. And but kids are cruel, and it was miserable. I mean, I was picked on pretty ruthlessly for being overweight, and it sucked. And there's still things. Even I'm 33 now, and I was telling my fiance I can remember specific specific parts of hallways in middle school where I can remember specific parts of the actual school where I would be picked on. I can remember the things kids said and all this. You remember those things, and they never actually leave you. So that's why I want to be open about all of that. And I started wrestling in high school. I played football, baseball, and I did some track. I did a little bit of everything. I didn't really like any of it. I liked football, but I wasn't very good at it. And then I started wrestling just because, honestly, wrestlers were just kind of the losers and outcasts. And I felt like I could belong there a little bit better. They all dressed like Unabombers and none of them were like popular kids. They were just really good at what they did. And I remember they invited me to come to come try, and I did it. And it was the worst experience of my life physically. It was just the hardest, most intense thing I'd ever done. And I loved it immediately. I just recognized that this was a sport where if I could just push a little bit harder, I could still do well. It didn't necessarily matter too much about talent. I could just outwork the other people, and that's how it ended up being. I was the kid that always stayed after practice and ran more and did more drills, and I did everything, and I ended up becoming a decent wrestler because of all the work I put in. And over one summer, I went from, I guess my junior year, I was about 212 pounds. And then to start my senior year, I was 176. And yeah, I was a much different person, different attitude. Like I was kind of walking with my shoulders back for the first time in my life because I had some confidence and I felt like I could handle myself if I needed to. And that just gives you a different type of confidence for high schooler. And I just loved it, and I fell in love with the sport. Really for that reason. At that time, I wasn't great at it by any means. I'd won a couple tournaments, but it was more of I just liked who wrestling like who it made me and what it made me become. And so then I started diving into everything, the nutrition and fitness and everything I possibly could to do it. I started meeting one of the wrestling coaches at 5:30 in the morning at my high school every single morning, working out with him. We would lift weights at 5:30 in the morning, which for a 16, 17-year-old is just unheard of. But I was waking up 4:30 every morning and driving all the way to the high school just so I could work out before school started and then have wrestling practice after. So I just dove in and I loved it. I started packing my own food, taking my own food to school, and I just loved everything about it. But what happens, especially with people that, if you want to, I try to stay away from the word, but, if you want to use the word trauma, I was very determined and obsessed with never being to get people picked on again, that I put some of those obsessions in the wrong place. And I became obsessed with things like the number on the scale. So then, when I was no longer wrestling, I was still obsessed with what the scale was saying, and I was obsessed with, being exhausted. The idea of going to the gym and not leaving just physically exhausted.
Can you guys? Is it breaking up a little bit for you? Is he breaking?
It's going slower than normal, but I'm getting what he's hearing.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, sorry guys about that technical.
We're good.
Making sure the Wi-Fi is okay on your end, Tyler and Julian. Okay.
Yeah,
he says it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry to interrupt, John. Some
technical adversity. No, you're fine. So yeah, as I started becoming like obsessed with the number on the scale and just maintaining a certain weight. Here I was in college, and I was still like waking up early and running for an hour before school would start. Then between classes, I would go work out, and then after school, I would go work out again. Like I was often doing, that. I remember when the movie 300 came out. This is the God's honest truth. Me and a friend of mine would wake up every morning, go run, go to school, work out between classes, work out after classes, and then go watch the late night showing of 300 and then do it all again. We did that like every day for weeks. We were idiots. Somehow managed to also do good in school. I don't know. But I was obsessed with fitness, and then it became an obsession that kind of took control, and I started mixing in. I was anorexic for a period. I started turning to bulimia some, and it was all just focused on I had to see this number to prove to myself, and it took a long time to get out of that. And honestly, one of the things that helped me, I started fighting. That was kind of the natural progression for a wrestler to go to, is just start adding punches and kicks and become a fighter. So I started fighting, and that kind of gave me something else to focus that obsession towards. And and I was going to school for nutrition. My bachelor's degree is nutrition and dietetics. I'm actually back in school now, finishing my master's degree in nutrition and food. So, it's one of those things I've just always been a part of. And I just kind of had to work myself out of that obsession. And instead, now I've kind of turned that obsession and that control. I still love to have control. I like to know what's going into my body, and I like to do, to know everything that I can do to give myself an edge aesthetically or performance or health. But now I've kind of turned the obsession towards business, and now I'm that obsession kind of goes towards guys like Julian and other fighters and stuff, and I kind of become obsessive about their nutrition, so it really helps.
I kind of wish you were obsessed about my nutrition right now, because you guys gave me my month and you won't talk to me. So I'm just throwing that out there. But I'm looking at the scale.
We'll get started next week.
So I did want to talk to you. One of the hardest things when it comes to nutrition, and I know this because your story is similar to mine. Wrestling saved me the same way as it saved you. It made you socially accepted. It made you have confidence in your demeanor, your language that you spoke out to people, how you walked, because you knew, like, if push come to shove, a regular civilian that has no idea what to do, you have some guidance of how to bring that person to the ground and survive to win. And it's like, it speaks volume. It gives you that confidence. And that's something we all lacked, growing up. And I see that. I do that. So when you said you had, anorexia and bulimia, I never gotten to the point where I would get to that death, but I knew a lot of people that would go to that edge to make sure they got weight, or to make sure that they, looked a certain way, male and female. How difficult is it to overcome that type of, obstacle? Because I know you have to have some sort of percentage of people that come to you with that type of, tough side of it, and they entrust you. And how do you handle that situation?
Yeah. Man, it's tough, because so many people have it and they don't even know, and you can't, you have to tiptoe around it a lot of times. Some people will just outright admit it, and I have noticed the more I talk about it, the more people will just come out and admit it, which that's one reason I love to talk about it. I owned a CrossFit gym for 9 years as well, and I sold it, but I would see it a lot coming into my CrossFit gym as well, because it attracts that obsessive fitness community, and it's difficult because it's really a disease. It's not something you want to do. I mean, no one wants to restrict themselves of the amount of nutrients they need. No one wants to make themselves throw up. No one really wants that. You just become, again, you become so obsessed. I've had people before get real cruel with it, and I talk about it, and be like, well, that's not a disease or anything. Like, you could have stopped anytime you wanted to. You just cared too much about what the number said. I'm like, well, okay, if you think it's that easy, I want you to think of one vice you have. Let's say it's soft drinks, which is a vice for a lot of people. Now quit. Never touch another one. Like, it's not. Like, we all have our obsessions and those things that become habits, and they're hard to break. And with things like that, you're not just dealing with a habit, you're dealing with a habit that, like I've found often, comes from some sort of stress in their past, or some sort of trauma they've suffered in the past. Most of those people have something like that. They have a story like mine, or they had a period where fitness was the answer to a problem they used to have, and it solved that problem, and then it became the problem. And it's hard to get people out of that mindset while still pushing them toward overall health. Because the opposite of anorexia isn't obesity, it's just finding that happy spot in the middle to where we can still eat. You've seen me, like, now I eat a lot. I just eat the right things, the things that I need to eat, and I eat the things that are going to make my body perform the way it needs to. And a lot of times, even still, like that eating disorder brain kind of gets to me sometimes, and like I'll see what I eat during the day. I actually posted a few hours ago like what a low calorie day for me looks like, and it's a ton of food. And sometimes you just look at it and think, wow, this is just so much food. But you just have to remind yourself, and what I have to remind people is, well, that food has a purpose. That food has a purpose, and you have to put that in so you can fulfill that purpose. And if you don't, you won't be able to use your body for all that it's capable of. I deal with this, you've heard me, with fighters all the time. I tell fighters, like, listen, you're a fighter. You're an athlete that uses your body to hurt another human. You're not a supermodel. Like, your diet can't look like a supermodel's diet. Your diet has to look like, a human killing machine, because that's effectively what you are. You're getting paid to hurt people. You're not getting paid to have abs or any of that. Like, we have to feed you in a way that you can hurt this other human, bad enough that the ref steps in and says you're done hurting them.
Absolutely. And, to piggyback on that, I would say that I've used a lot of nutritionists, and, I love using you, and I always have, because I feel like you've gone through the mileage of being a fighter. You know what it's like. You trial and error, and it's like a coach telling you, who's never stepped foot in the octagon, what to do. It's hard to trust them, but you have someone that literally stepped foot in the octagon multiple times and had to do the diets and has done the diets alongside with everyone. So it brings that comfortability, because I've been on a diet before where I had the traditional, pyramid, the actual food pyramid. We need to have this much carbs and this much stuff, and this is how much protein you have. You need to X out this. And, my body felt terrible, but I didn't feel like I was losing weight, and it was just mentally exhausting. But, like, do you think what lacks in education growing up is the proper form of eating? Because I feel like when I grew up in taking foods class, it was just like, oh, here's your fork, here's your knife, this is what a plate should look like, this is how much food it is. But everyone had the same course. It wasn't telling you, like, hey man, it's, if you eat meat and clean meat, you can have a little bit more. But if you go have that, chicken patty from Chicken Patty Wednesday with mashed potatoes, that's a little too much. Double orders, or the spicy chicken, or the Bosco sticks. Like, how do you, like, do you think that's a big issue with society today, is that we don't know what to eat? We're just comfortable with eating the most convenience?
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. I'm feeling that it's less that way, because by now everyone might not know what to eat, but everyone kind of knows not, like, what not to do. So one thing I do a lot in my consultations, like if I'm doing an in-person consultation, I'll actually pull out a piece of paper. I don't do a whole lot of these anymore, but I'll do this same thing over the phone. On a piece of paper, I want you to write down 10 things that you're doing that you absolutely know are keeping you from your goal right now. Everyone can come up with 10 things. They write them down immediately. Like, okay, for 30 days, stop doing that. And then, like, people look at me like, that's it. I'm like, yeah. So here's the thing. If you've already come up with 10 things you know you're doing that you shouldn't be doing, and these things are standing in your way, like, you need to attack that before I start giving you all this new information. You're not ready for new information if you can't even eliminate the things you shouldn't be doing. So I think people just need to, first, I think people need to find ways to get out of their own vices and those things that they know. And then it does become a little bit more fine tuning. So the average, the general population, a lot of it is simply, an obesogenic lifestyle, meaning they're sedentary, They're eating way too much processed foods, quick grab-and-go foods, these high-calorie, low-volume meals. And really, if we just start eliminating that, then that makes a difference. And I try to meet people where they're at. I had a guy once that was drinking, seriously, 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day. So this guy was drinking 6 liters of Coke a day. So if I went in like like this gung-ho, diet guy, and it's like, all right, dude, you got to stop drinking soft drinks now, or they're going to kill you. It wasn't going to work. So what we did, we literally went down by half a liter a week. So like, okay, you're going to do 5.5 liters of Coke for a week. Then you're going to do 5 liters of Coke for a week. And we went down to where he was doing 2 liters, and this guy was losing like 5, 6, 7 pounds a week just by cutting out his soft drinks. We didn't even touch his food yet. And by the end of it, I had the guy drinking three cans of Coke Zero a day. And a lot of people out there will just give me this big mess about how diet drinks are worse for you than regular. There you go. How diet drinks are worse for you than regular drinks. And I go through that a lot. You've probably seen on my Instagram, I'll get in these arguments with people saying that diet drinks are worse for you than regular drinks. First off, no, they're not. You're not going to find a single conclusive study on humans that's ever showed that. Second of all, I'm trying to attack, the number one, leading cause of preventable death, which is overweight and obesity. So yeah, they are going to be much, much better for you because they're going to cut your calories down. So I try to meet people wherever they're at in the general population and just help them get through their habits. I talk about habits a lot because it's all just establishing better habits. With fighters, it's a little bit different because we have to cut those habits out. And we have to deal with all the metabolic damage that happens every time, like someone's cutting weight, or especially if I get someone who they have never worked with me before. And I'll actually use Julian here as an example before he was using it. Like we start working together and I just recognize, a lot of metabolic dysfunction. And that's where, you treat your body poorly, whether it's, you're just you're going through weight cuts, you get heavy, you get light, you get heavy, you get light, you have super stressful training days, you're not sleeping good, you're, all these things, they start to kill your metabolism a little bit. So one of my goals with you and with a lot of my fighters is to still allow you to make weight, but we slowly want to repair your metabolism in the process. And that's tricky. And that's why I told you when you went and got your metabolic testing done, and we actually saw your metabolism had improved even, after 3 back-to-back weight cuts. To me, that was cooler than you making weight, because that showed that not only did you make weight 3 times in a row, but you healed your metabolism in the process, and that's hard to do. So with fighters, we have to be a little bit more finicky and a little bit more detail-oriented. But the general population, I truly think it's a lot easier than people necessarily realize. I think the issue is they're listening to the wrong people, and I think they're listening to the wrong people, and they're not finding sustainability. So they're trying to follow these extreme diets out there that just aren't sustainable. They do them for 3 weeks and they give up because, who wouldn't? If I had to just do nothing but drink juice every day for a week, I'm going to give up too, because that sucks. Then they're just not realizing, like, hey, you can still eat a lot of the things that you really like. We just need you to also eat a lot better things. A quote I use, I tell my clients often is, like, you are what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally do. If you're regularly following a good, healthy diet, and then every now and then you have a cheeseburger and fries, you're going to look like someone who follows a healthy diet. You're not going to look like someone who eats cheeseburger and fries all the time. That being said, if you're constantly eating cheeseburgers and fries, but every couple of days you start a diet for a couple of days, you're going to look like someone who occasionally diets. So it's all just about establishing habits and consistently sticking with those habits.
That's the truth.
I was going to say, so I'm going to turn into a cheesecake because that's all I've been eating the last few days.
What is it? You are what you eat. Remember those old commercials where they say you are what you eat, and the person's like walking around as a donut? Or
oh my god!
You guys remember those commercials? You ever seen them? Oh man,
I don't remember that.
That's hilarious because this past month, everyone's like, just go ahead and eat, enjoy it. Well, look, I was on a diet for 11 months. And we've changed my entire life. We went from 255 to 186 multiple times, 184 on another one. I just want to throw that out there. Thank you guys very much for making me suffer. But we made weight a bunch of times, and like now the diet that I have is I literally have I've just started eating shit just to eat it because I want to enjoy it, because I know that whenever Tyler hits me up, it's like time to diet. I know that I'm going to lose all of that excitement of having a Quit Trip, buffalo cheese stick or a spicy chicken sandwich or a jalapeno popper when I go out to eat. And plus I've been on the road and living through DoorDash and like restaurants for a while. So I'm in it, but yeah, I get that. I understand that so much more now that if, when we were sustaining the diet between camp from the Maki fight till now, we were eating healthy, and then I still would have some cheat meals, and all of a sudden we had another fight, and we were back on it, and I was able to lose that weight a lot faster. And I was like you said, a guy that is on a diet for a few days, having one cheat meal and going back, it's still living a diet lifestyle. And it's about discipline, and right now I don't have discipline. I need your help.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback on that too, I had a client that checked in with me today, and she said, I'm still losing 1 pound to 1.2 pounds a week. She's like, but I have to be honest, I've been having a couple of cheat meals every week. She goes, I'm sorry, I'll clean that up. I was like, what do you mean you're sorry, you'll clean that up? I'm like, what you're telling me is you're making progress and you're still able to fudge the plan a little bit. I'm like, don't, keep doing what you're doing. Don't change anything. We're making progress, and you're having a couple nights where you're with your family and stuff, and life gets in the way and you're just not able to follow the plan. To me, that's perfection. That's what I would actually rather I would rather hear that than someone say, hey, I'm losing a pound a week. I'm doing everything 100% on, because then I know, we don't really have any room to change. To once they stop losing weight, we can only get stricter or more strict or change things. But I love hearing that people are getting success and they're still, loosening up a little bit.
I like that too, because I think it helps to keep people motivated too. So, they've done well for 3 weeks. And I don't know, I know a little about nutrition, but not to the extent that, you do. However, it does incentivize people. They, feel like they can indulge. And then I think that, or at least for me, then I'm more inclined to stay on track, okay? Because, I have a little reward and I'm back to the grind. And it doesn't ruin all 3 weeks of success. It's a cheat meal, not a cheat day. And it's not like the largest cheat meal. And it's, I think, moderation, right? Everything in moderation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
I like
the thing. People, there's not enough people kind of talking about that. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying I like using the things with you because, there's times where on our diet, I feel like I'm going to get scolded by him and James through my diet. I was like, damn, I ate a lot of cheese this week, man. Cheese is my weakness. They all know I have one weakness. It's not candy. It's not anything. It's cheese. And, I feel like I'm going to get scolded. I think that's what you guys do very well, or you do very well when it comes to the nutritional diet. It's like, hey, it's okay, man. Hey, you can have cheese. I know it's not on the diet, but just don't overdo it. And, I don't overdo it. There's times I've overdid it, but, I still made weight. That's all that matters. Boom. That's it.
Yeah. But if I made that a forbidden fruit and said, absolutely do not touch this, you cannot have it, you're more likely to do it. They've done studies, and this is important. So they've done studies on toddler girls whose parents restrict quote unquote bad food from them, who actually and use negative language like, hey, we can't eat that because it can make you healthy. And what they've shown is those toddler girls are more likely to A, find ways to get it elsewhere, and B, are more likely to be heavier later in life. And what, that tells you two things. When you restrict something and someone, they start to want that forbidden fruit, they're going to get it. And two, that negative self-talk starts to play a factor later in life, and it sticks with them. So, that's something that, I have a toddler, and it's he's my favorite client. He's so much fun because it's just constantly playing mind games on nutrition, and he just does anything. Like it blows my mind how easy he is sometimes. When I first like when I first started working with him, and he's not mine by blood, but he's very much my son. So he was 1.5 when I first met him, and he was a very picky eater. So I really want to goal of just changing all these things and just introducing him. So I had to start working from scratch and planting all these little seeds into his head. So first, like he's seeing me work out all the time. He's really interested in being big and strong, like all little boys are. So then I'm like, okay, well that's easy. So now every time I wanted him to eat protein, we would just talk about like, hey, you need to eat protein. No, we just say, hey, this is what I eat to get strong. This is what's going to help you get strong. So he immediately, at that time about 2 years old, he's associating protein with strength. And he was associating this kid is now he's 3.5, and he can tell you that protein helps you get strong, carbohydrates give you energy, and fat's good for your hormones. He doesn't even know what hormones are, but he just knows that fat's really good for those. So he's eating these things, for their benefit and not even realize that. And I've had this kid, I've cooked fish with the head still on it, and he's just sitting there eating the fish. He'll eat, like when I go hunting, if I get a deer, he eats venison. His favorite food's mussels. He'll just sit there and like crack the mussel open and eat it. He just,
I saw that photo on your Instagram of you actually shooting. It was a bow, right? It was an archery, or it was a shotgun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with him, yeah.
Man, do you take him hunting?
He's not old enough yet. So like right now, I'm just kind of, I'm teaching him an appreciation of weapons, just so he knows. And when he's old enough, he can kind of, learn that, hey, these things are extremely dangerous, but he already knows that. So then we can kind of get more into how to use them. So also, I think that's important. I think having a personal relationship with the food you eat is important. So he helps me cook too. So anytime I'm cooking, I'll try to get him to help me. So if he did it, he wants it. If he makes it, it doesn't matter what this kid makes. He wants to eat it because he personally did it. And, anyone, who doesn't buy into that, if you ever have a kid make you anything, it's the coolest thing on earth. It doesn't matter. They hand you a paper plate that they glued together and put some dust on. They hand it to you, and they think it's the coolest thing in the world because they made it.
Yeah.
And it is the coolest thing. And they do that with food too.
You have to eat it. Like if they made it, like they want to see the look
exactly.
It's like, oh yeah, did you like it? Did you like it?
Exactly.
I know you both got some horror.
Yeah, exactly. So
give me some food horror stories that the little ones made. Come on, let me hear it. Let me hear it.
Well, honestly, he just makes the things that I help him cook. So he cooks with me. So it's not been too bad, but there's been many times that I've looked over and he's like got a piece of raw chicken and shoved a piece of raw chicken in his mouth before it was cooked. I'm like, no. Like he got to it before I could. So we had to really, really drill in food safety to him and all that, because he just loves to, he's like all of us who like to cook. He loves to taste while he cooks. And so there's been several times that I've had to pull a piece of raw bloody deer meat out of his hands or something right before it was about to enter his mouth.
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever gone hunting. I've never had deer meat or anything that's raw by my body.
Sushi.
I love it.
That's sushi. I guess sushi's right, but it's not deer.
Yes, it's not. I liked what you talked about, Tyler, when you said, as far as, negative self-talk around food, because I think we do this, just with kids or just in general, like, oh, I can't have that, it's bad. And I feel like we should think about how we talk about food in front of our kids, because they pick up on it. So it's like, or even like with discipline, like he's a bad kid. No, the kids are always good. It's their behavior that you don't like, So I guess the point is, I like how you talk about it. Like if you restrict a kid, there's a couple kids in the neighborhood, every time they come to my house, because I keep a candy dish out, okay? Because I have a little one, and if, she wants candy, it's there. I'm not going to sit and micromanage what she eats, that type of thing. I try to encourage healthiness, But I think if you don't do that, then those are the kids that are sneaking them in their pockets, because I find them in the bathroom garbage downstairs, and and I'm like, who the heck? And I say, okay, so and so is here, and they shove it in their pockets. They don't get it. They're restricted, and it shouldn't be. Food shouldn't be good or bad. It should just be, this is a better choice. This is healthier. This is whatever, those types of things. So I like that. I think that whole finishing, I was looking at your Instagram, you have to finish what's on your plate. That is so old school mentality. No, you don't. Okay. When you're full or you're satisfied, you can be done, and that's okay. So I don't like that. Personally.
It's crazy because my family growing up, like I have a lot of like being a Hispanic family, they love, and we love each other very like everybody comes by, everybody's hanging out, every time we get together, it's always a party. But families, sometimes like Italian families are the same, is that we love you through food. So we want to feed you more and more. Yeah. And even though you're full, you're my grandma always says that she's a giver. She's a server for you. And she constantly said that, and it gets to the point where like, yo, I'm on a diet. Like I cannot eat this. Stop. Like she's wanting to cook. She's wanting to add this. You're saying you can only eat this amount. She's trying to throw in, chocolates, breads, pastas. She's like, I can make you your own little cake. Like I'm not joking on all these things that she's trying to get you to eat, even though you keep saying no, no, no. And as a kid, you're just like, yes, yes, yes. And I didn't know the difference. Like I would finish a plate of rice and beans, and then she was like, you want more? And I'm like, oh, I'm a little hungry. I like more. And there's no portion control. It's just boom. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you have to finish it or not. It's just when you're done with that and you're full, they're like, oh, do you want dessert? And as a kid, you're like, oh, yeah, I would love some dessert. I would love some pateles. I would love some guayaba. And then you just constantly just training yourself to eat and just shove your face with everything. And it's just, there's a lot of families out there that love you through food. And I think that's what makes it difficult with us and the dieting part as well.
Yeah. And it's such an ingrained thing. If you look at our ancestors and stuff too, food is food's an expectation for us. It's just so easy to get. We can get on our phone and order food in a heartbeat. To them, food was like more of a privilege. It wasn't a right. A lot of us, especially our grandparents, like food something that sometimes you had and sometimes you didn't, and if you did, it meant you worked really hard for it and you got a little bit lucky, maybe even. So to them, food is a sign of kind of success, and it's where everybody kind of gathered. So like everyone was going away all day and working, and the kids were going to school, and then you gather at the end of the day as a family and you eat together. So to them it does. I mean, it symbolizes success and love and all those things. And that is tough. My mom is the best cook I know, period. And, I live in the Appalachian Mountains. So, I mean, she cooks Appalachian food. It's not healthy.
Oh, wait.
And it's her.
Yeah, the lard with, I'm sorry to cut you up, but I just thought, okay, the bacon gravy, you make your bacon, right? You have the remains, you make your roux, get that going, you add your flour. Yeah, but Crisco for them biscuits. Yeah. Whew.
Crisco with
yes. You make whatever the fattiest thing is first, and you cook everything else. You cook everything else in the fat. That's kind of the way. And to her, she loves that. Like she loves being able to give people food. She loves when they love it. And I see that with me, Julian. I swear that's my mom. I give fighters food, and I want to know if they like it. Like I'm like, hey, did you like it? It almost bothers me if they don't say it, so I have to ask them because I want to know that they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to give someone something that sucks. Like it makes it if they like it. And that is tough. It's really hard to get through that. But we kind of maybe appease our grandparents sometimes and stuff. But it's kind of a cultural shift that we kind of have to change with our own kids. And what you said too, I talk about it a lot. Food isn't moral. Like there's no moral connection to food. Yep. If you're constantly telling kids good food and bad food. One thing that's so ironic to me, think about it, as parents, it's often that, I see it and I've done it before. So the food that we consider bad food is usually the food that we use to reward kids for good behavior. So like candy's bad for you. You shouldn't eat candy. But if you go do this really good thing, I'm going to reward you with this bad food. That causes a lot of confusion. Yes. And that's just the thing.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I never thought about it.
Yeah, it's true. And we just start putting this moral.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we start putting these morals on food, and these kids, like it's well, that's bad food. Well, okay, well, what does that mean if the kid down the street's always eating bad food? I don't mean he's a bad kid. He's just a kid. And, it doesn't matter. And we tend to just put these morals associated with food, and they last. And that's what happens with eating disorders. You have this bad food, you eat it, and then you feel bad about yourself for eating it because you just made a moral mistake. So then what happens? You feel bad about yourself. Your confidence goes down. You're depressed. You're stressed. What do? You turn to that food that you feel like you deserve. You don't feel, you don't deserve good food because you're not a good person because you're making bad choices. And it just creates this feedback cycle of just, you keep shoving bad food in. And it starts at a very, very young age. And I think a lot of people, when they listen to this too, they'll, if they have that opinion now, they can probably think back to when they're kids and realize that it's something that their parents, definitely unintentionally, no parent would purposely ever do that.
No, I never think
but just that culture creates.
Yeah, I think, obviously, like our parents, we're trying to do better than what they did, and their parents, and it's a trickle down effect. And some are just so damn stubborn they won't change. Shame on you guys, because you guys know who you are, what parents you are. Like, it's okay, to be firm on certain things, but sometimes you have to adapt because we're in a different world, guys. And some of the moms too, not just dads. Absolutely. But I think sometimes it's a little more difficult for them to make the change.
That's kind of crazy because I never really realized it. And as you sat there, I'm going through my head of all the times that I'm like, oh shit, that's why I don't really like chocolates and sweets, because of I correlated with bad and horrible. And during wrestling, you don't want to eat this. It's going to be tough to cut. It's going to be harder to lose. And it's like, oh shit, that's why I don't eat it. There's a few things in this world I will never touch, and it is syrup. And I will never touch chocolate and during camp. And those are the things. I never will go through that. Syrup 100% of the time, but chocolate, it's just both sugars. And I think they're bad foods.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of high, what is it? I was reading about this oh gosh, I can't even say it. Fructose, corn syrup, all these things that they put in these low fat things. And I realized now after, I don't know, I'm here at BioAccelerator. It took me this long, but it increases inflammation. And it's really bad for your heart and whatever. It's all terrible. It's all crap. So I guess
it's one of those things. It's just wow. Food is the most powerful drug on earth. I mean, it just absolutely is. So, I tell people food's medicine, and the type of medicine you take is going to dictate your behavior. And I mean, it really is. You see it all the time. It was, I've always had a real hard time, I'm Christian, I'm Christian. I've been in church my whole life. And even as a kid, it always kind of struck me really odd when an obese pastor would condemn people for drinking. I'm you have a bit of addiction yourself to food, man. It's not, and that's honestly, I use that with a lot of people. Anytime I hear people, I love to throw that with joy and just laugh. I love to use that with people. When I see people judging people for any addiction, drug use or anything and I grew up, in a very judgmental type community, and the South is that way. Really, America's that way. And you would think, oh, that homeless person, they're just a druggie, and they're like, well, what are you talking about? You're addicted to Pepsi, or you're addicted to chewing gum, even little things. It's we all have our addictions. You're just lucky that yours isn't that bad. But statistically, if your addiction is food, it's more likely to kill you than the drug addict addiction is. So.
Yeah, I think it's easy for people to point the finger, and I don't knock church or anything like that, but I just feel like if you shouldn't judge, and that's the last place people should judge. You should be calling people out, especially in church. It's a little hypocritical to me, because none of us are perfect. Obviously, there's one supreme, whatever it is that you believe. So yeah, that is tough, because you're right. We all have stuff. We all have shit, and that just makes us who we are. But I think, lack of education is, I guess, when I think about why people judge, it's because lack of education and not, they don't know. So they're quick to judge. So
I feel like perfection is a subjective type of deal. And it's to me, what I find perfect may not be the same thing as Tyler, what you find perfect, and the same thing as you, Kendra. So like, I believe people just feel like it's okay to give their opinion, and like it's wanted by everyone for you to give your opinion about your version of perfection. So like when someone is in power, they feel like everyone should hear them out and understand their version of perfection. Like, you know what, you got to work out a little bit more. No, or you can't eat that stuff because this is how it should be. It's like, no, not really. It's just, as I'm learning on here, it's not about that. It's about moderation, control, and just not being an asshole when you eat, or not being an asshole with whatever, controlled substance you have. Whether that be eating a lot of cheese like me, or chewing a lot of bubble gum like some, or smoking cigarettes or chewing tobacco. Like it's just, or drinking, like they're all addictions. But I think in moderation, you can still, go through it. Now, I don't condone smoking. I don't like smoking. That's me. But if you smoke, go for it. But I feel like people a lot are very open now with social media, that they can go out there and tell you like, oh, this is how you should look, or this is how you should do it to get these 6-pack abs, or this is how it's going to go down if you continue to eat this. And it's like, it makes you almost hate your lifestyle because of you're not like that influencer or that supermodel.
Yeah. There's.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, Tyler, but I'm just saying the pressure is.
No, I was just saying, you get those. Sorry, mine was breaking out. Go ahead.
Oh,
I'm
I
sorry.
said, go ahead. I want to hear what you think about that. But the pressure of social media and what people should be. I just I'm going to be what I want to be. But yeah, it is hard, especially on young kids, and teenagers, and so.
Yeah, it terrifies me. I have like I said, I have a 3.5-year-old and a 9-month-old, and honest to goodness, like the thing that terrifies me most is them growing up in, ironically, the world that I used to thrive on. If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have much of a business. It's my number one revenue. Like Instagram is where I get more clients than anything. And it can be such a beautiful place. I mean, I try to use my Instagram for positivity and to teach people this, but it's not always that way, sadly. And like I hope my kids can that they can avoid, when they are old enough to have that kind of thing, they can avoid those people that are out there just to make you feel bad and to judge you. But man, I see that so much in my profession. It's just telling people, hey, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. I'm like, yeah, like we realize that, but teach us how to not do that. Like, yeah, I realize I probably shouldn't be eating all that thing. Like I said, for the first 30 days, I like people, hey, like I want you to eliminate those things that you shouldn't do. And then what usually happens at the end of that 30 days, I get to learn all the things they could easily get rid of, but then they start to tell me the things that they couldn't get rid of. And then we can start tackling why. Okay, like why was that hard to get rid of? Like, well, like every day after work, I always drink 2 beer. Okay, well, what is it about that does? Do you have a stressful job, or like is your home life stressful when you get home? So I start to be able to figure out exactly what it is that's triggering these people to keep them from being able to give up these vices. But with social media and stuff, there's too many influencers and people in my industry who just want to tell you what's bad and make you feel bad for doing it, but they don't want to actually help you. It's like a counselor, like a marriage counselor, or a counselor who just helps you bring all these things out, but then doesn't tell you how to deal with them. Like you see that in the nutrition thing constantly. Like, okay, well, you told this person it's bad to overeat. Like they probably understood that, but now what are you going to do to help them solve that problem and go forth and have no issues? And that's what I try to do. And I try to do it again without a moral connection to it, because again, it's not, I mean, if I'm being honest, I can think right now in my head, I won't say it, but honestly, the happiest, friendliest is obese. So like, if we're going to sit here and say that this has some moral, obesity has some moral connection, or we'll know. Like I can tell you many people who prove that wrong. It doesn't. Like you should strive to be healthy for your own benefit. And I've told people before, and I've actually told this person, I'm like, hey, like I know you're happy and you offer, you have a lot to offer the world. I want you to improve the way you eat so you can be around longer to keep spreading all that love and all that positivity. Like you're fine how you are. And then that's one thing I hate I hate the health at any size movement. Like because it's a little too extreme telling people at any size you can be. Well, no, that's simply not true. The message should be at any size you can be beautiful. Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. Like at any size you can be happy. Well, yeah, you can be. At any size, you can be a great person. Absolutely. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you like you can be healthy. Like, well, no, you can't. And in fact, what you're doing is keeping you from using all those gifts that you have and all that beauty that you have and the positivity and the love. Like the way you're eating is going to make it really hard for you to do those, like well into a later age. And I've told people before, like, hey, I really like you. I want you to be around until you're 100 years old. So let's try to improve the way you eat so you can keep doing that.
How do you tackle that? Because for instance, I have family members that, that are a little bit on the obese side, and there's a lot of complications. They're getting older and things like that. But how do you tackle with it to somebody that's been around for a long time, that it's hard to change their ways? Like with doing diets, they've done diets, and it's just the same typical response like anybody else would give is, I did this diet, just doesn't work for me. I don't like carbs. I do this one, and this is easy. I can eat as much meat as I want because it almost has that negative talk about these foods, and you created this like negative response to these foods that you don't want to eat. How do you attack to help benefit someone's life that's in that type of position?
Yeah, so a lot of it is I think their goals are wrong. So if you're in your 50s or 60s and let's say you have 100 pounds to lose, like that seems impossible. And not only that, it seems like, and it probably is truthful that like the lifestyle change you're going to have to do that. For some people, it's just not worth it. Like I have no interest in being that person. Like I don't want to give up the things because they are happy. It's even harder if someone's happy. But what they don't realize is a 3% reduction in body weight. So if you're obese, just losing 3% of your body weight greatly improves health statistics and increases your lifespan. That's only 3%. And a lot of people don't know those things. They're only looking at numbers like I have to lose 100 pounds. I'm like, no, like you really don't. Can you lose 5 or 10? Okay, awesome. Let's try to lose 5 or 10, and then let's try to maintain it. So what you find is when people start making these little changes and then you really try to get them just to maintain those changes, once that new change becomes a habit, it's stuck. It's not something that's going to be hard anymore. Well, then they can start tackling new habits. So habit one might be, hey, let's just keep eating the way you're eating, but let's try to get in 10,000 steps every day. Don't change your diet whatsoever. Let's just try to be less sedentary and try to burn more calories so we're using that fuel differently. And then once that becomes a habit, and 10,000 is a pretty lofty number for someone who's just jumping in, but then after that's just a habit, they start to see a little bit of success with that and they're feeling good. I'm like, okay, well, how many soft drinks do you have a day? Can you cut one out? Or, can you cut a snack out? I just try to find a little small, tiny habits that we can change for healthy habits. And then once that healthy habit's stuck, then we try to change other things. Like, don't look for a long-term big goal. Just look for little goals that they can maintain and keep adding.
It's crazy you say that. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
It's crazy you say that because
it's the hardest because you have to. So I'll keep talking. Family's the hardest because you have to do it for them sometimes. Sometimes you just have to make the change for them. You got to cook it for them. You have to go walk with them. Like maybe you tell them, hey, I need you to go walk every morning for 30 minutes. Well, you might just have to do it with them. Like you have to show them you believe in them. You have to do all that with them sometimes, and that makes it tough.
That's what to do. the thing is that like I watched a video to kind of piggyback on what you said. It's crazy you said it, but I watched a video a few years ago, and a guy was talking about change and how to create change. And he said 100% of people that say they're going to start a diet fail. He said 100%. If you come to me and you say, hey, I'm going to do a diet, I know that you're failing. 100%. You may go hard for 2 months, may go hard for 3 months, but you're going to fail. You're going to give up on that diet. And you're going to go back to the same habits you are. He's like, in order to create change, you have to make a habit, and you have to create this habit. And he's like, you know, you're going to laugh at me, but how I changed my life is I started off by saying, I'm never going to have candy corn the rest of my life. And everybody laughed at him, and they were like, you know, why'd you do that? And he looked at everyone, and he's like, look, I don't eat candy corn. And when it's out there, sometimes I eat it during Halloween, but it's easy to get rid of that because it's already gotten rid of. Like, I've already gotten rid of it. And then he stated that then later on, it was like, all right, I'm never going to drink, you know, Dr. Pepper. And he's like, he didn't really drink Dr. Pepper. Sometimes he drank it, you know, occasionally when he's out. And then, you know, he would drink Coke and all this other stuff. Then he said, like, after a few months when he was ready for it, he moved into saying, all right, I'm not going to drink soda outside, or not going to drink soda inside. I'm only going to drink soda outside my house. And then he just kept adding on to this. And he goes, now I don't drink soda. I don't do anything. I made these habits where I trained my body to stay away from these things that it's not that I don't like them. It's just I don't want them anymore. They're not part of my life, and I don't really need them. And I don't crave them.
Yeah, and when you identify like in specific ways, so we'll take my own father. I want to say my dad started dipping skull when he was like 12 years old, and he's in his 50s now.
What is that?
Tobacco like you put in your lip.
It's called
chew skull. I thought dip skull was like a disease or something. Chewing skull.
Like that.
Yeah.
He my whole life, and he would make it. He would like, oh, I haven't had it in 7 days. I haven't had it in 8 days. Just my whole life. And then I remember about a year ago, he just told me one day. He goes, "Hey, I haven't had a dip in 7 days." I'm like, "Dad, quit counting." I'm like, "Stop counting." And he goes, he was like, "Why?" I was like, "What's the longest you've ever lasted?" I can't remember what he said. He's like 32 days. Like, okay, so in your head, you just think, okay, I have to beat it past 32 days. I said, "Dad, ask me how many days it's been since I've dipped skull." And he knows I don't do it. So he was like, "How many?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't do it. I don't use tobacco." I'm like, it's easy because I don't use it. That's how I want you to start identifying as someone who just doesn't use it. Like, so I told my dad, I said, from now, tell your friends how many days you've gone without it. Quit telling me, because I don't care. I don't care how many days you haven't used tobacco. I just care that you're not a tobacco user. And it seems to me that you're not. I'm like, because I don't see tobacco around you right now. You're not a tobacco user. And so then I would test him. I would like text him. I'm like, "How many days since your last dip?" He goes, "I don't know. I don't use tobacco." And he's like a year now. Like he's not had it in over a year, and he don't care anymore. And he said literally that little mental switch just changed everything for him once he started seeing himself as someone who just doesn't use it rather than someone who's done without it for X amount of days. You know, if I say like, "Hey, I haven't had this in 7 days," it means I'm someone who was once addicted to this, but I'm slowly breaking that addiction. Whereas if I'm saying like, "Oh no, I just don't do that."
Yeah, that is.
It just kind of gives myself those little hints that, hey, you don't really need it.
It's mental. I think a lot of it is, and I think that's where a lot of these addictions and things come from. Obviously, it's they're mentally, or some are you know, neurologically, we're just wired that way. Like some of them, however, some are environment and habits, like you said. So very interesting. I like that. I might have to use that one. I don't know. I mean, I think we're all addicted to you know, whatever things or things that we do that maybe we could do differently. So I'm going to try to use that one. I just don't.
It's easy.
Yeah, no, it's handy. Again, it's just, you know, like you just got to tell yourself who you want to be. Like everything you tell yourself about yourself. I'm not trying to become like some mental guru here, but every sense of who you are, So if I tell myself like, hey, I'm someone who eats healthy. Like if every time I sit down for a meal, I'm like, I'm going to choose a healthy meal because I'm a healthy person. Like it just makes sense. Like if I'm constantly just telling myself, well, yeah, that's what I'm going to choose because it's just who I am. You're more likely to do it than if you just in your head like you don't feel like you're that person, but you're just going to try it. It's just not going to
It,
work. Like you have to
it's
start talking to
crazy.
yourself as if you already are who you want to be.
It's crazy. It's so easy to say it. And like, being 11 months on the diet, it was so easy to say no, to refuse it and do that stuff. But like during this month that I've had, I literally look at it like, fuck it. I'm going to eat this because I want this. Because I know that whenever it comes back in, like kind of the same similarity of what your dad was saying, oh, it's been 7 days since I've chewed skull. And to me, it's like, okay, I have 7 days before I go on a diet. I have 7 days before I go back to eating, I restricting it to where I don't feel like this luxury. But it's to the point where like I want it now, like whereas before I was like, dude, I fucking hate this. I don't want to eat another, limited food. I want to go out and eat all this stuff. I spent $400 on Girl Scout cookies because of that sensation, that feeling that I wanted when I was, eating. Yeah, don't worry about that. When I was eating healthy, like and I was craving, I couldn't have it, and I knew I couldn't have it. Dude, I'm supporting family members' kids. I spent $400. I said I would do it. So I bet it's $400. And I like now it's like, dude, I don't even want this. Like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
But in my head,
it's a lot. You got your fix on those tag along. No. What kind are your favorite? I'm just curious. Okay. All right.
I don't do caramel delights either. Everyone thinks that caramel, they keep saying it's the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. There are two different ones. Ones have more.
No, it's
No, moral of the story is like just moderation. There you go. And I know, I don't know. I feel like that's what works for me, but not all the time. Like I said, I'm a cheesecake this week.
I spent $400 so I can start sending to every person that's on the podcast a box of Girl Scout cookies. So I'm gonna send you a box of Girl Scout cookies for your time, Tyler.
Well, I like Thin Mints, or whatever they call
it. Well, Tyler, I would love to pick your brain. I will probably reach out to you just because from what I have somebody who works on my diet now, just started recently. However, after coming to BioAccelerator, there's a lot of things that I need to change now that he's doing. And he's great. However, I'm still going to utilize him to work out, but I'm going to use you for nutrition. So mine's a lot different. So I'll be reaching out. But for all the listeners here, I want to let them know where they can find you and all your links and anything else that you want to share. I wish we could keep him longer. He's so informative, and you keep it real. Like it's like practical advice. It's not, okay, this grams. It's just like, hey, it's just real life stuff that everybody can relate to. It makes it easy. And I think if it's easy, people can stick to it much easier.
Absolutely. I think we can have a part 2 when everyone starts listening to this, and we can come back to it, get a better studio and lighting. But yeah, Tyler, let us know where we can find you on all your social media platforms and possibly your new YouTube channel that you're going to create.
So TylerMintonNutrition.com. And that's also my Instagram handle. So Tyler Minton Nutrition, and because of my accent, I'll spell it. So that's TylerMinton Nutrition.com, or my Instagram is the same. I get my DMs get flooded with questions, and I try to answer them. I used to answer every single DM that anyone ever sent me, and now it's just I'm flooded. But if you ask me a question on a post, I normally always answer it, and I do pretty regular question and answer forums too, where I get to everything, because I love helping people for free too. So like I try to give as much free information on my Instagram as possible, because I never want like a financial situation to be the difference in being healthy or not. So like I always try to put information out there that can benefit from, even if they're not a client.
I like that. That's why you're the best. You're the most entertaining.
I love it. I just love it. Sorry, Julian, it's lagging over here at Columbia.
You're all good. You're all good. But I love it. I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. We'll definitely have a number 2. We'll add some stories for you. We'll add some content for you so you can share with your page. And Kendra, thank you for taking time out of your day when you're relaxing in this beautiful hotel in, is it Colombia? I thought you were in Costa Rica.
No, Columbia, and I've got 10 injections in this baby. I'm looking like a bear paw. No.
10 injections.
It's huge. I got 10 injections in joint. Well, it's bad. Joint. And I'm just sitting there like, you're very brave. I'm like, I don't have any choice, but it was, yeah. But the next day, because the stem cells, they're, anyway, I can cut the thing. They'll cut it off after this. They can form into any type of cell. So where there's damage. So that's what they do. So it's the stem cells working and spreading out. And yeah, they're working, boy, because it's swollen. So anyway. Okay. Thank you, Tyler. We'll keep you. Yeah, I'll be emailing him,
Tyler, you're welcome. Just use Beauty and the Beast podcast when you send it over there to Tyler, Kendra. That way he knows that it was a referral by Julian Marquez.
Hey, that's right. Get some champions over there.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later, Tyler.
Yeah, guys. Thanks.